Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time you said is coming over you. You're wishing upon a star. You're wishing it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is the three Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. It's not live, it is a pre-record, so we're doing this on Thursday evening, and we've got Stu as a special guest tonight. Good to see you, Stu. Plenty to talk about as always on the show, and of course we'll be looking ahead to the match against Southampton, which takes place on Saturday a little bit later, and giving our predictions. But the transfer window, Steve, we're recording this on Thursday the 23rd of January. How's it going from your perspective?
I'm still waiting for it to open, Steve. I don't know about the rest of you, but I mean, dear me, as transfer windows go, this one is firmly slammed shut at St James's Park at the moment, isn't it? Or so it would appear. We have a list, don't we, that occasionally we mention that has over 100 odd players linked to us. It's a fairly pointless list at the moment, because I don't think that any of those players that we're being linked to, there's any possibility of coming to Newcastle United. Not in this window, and I'll be very surprised if any of them come in the summer window, to be perfectly honest. I mean, let's take the name that's been on everybody's lips over the last 2 or 3 weeks, which is young Tyler Dibbling down at Southampton. He's now been valued apparently by Southampton, who are destined for relegation. We all know that. At £55 million, and that's because Tottenham started sniffing around. We already knew that the lad apparently was homesick from Chelsea when he was at Chelsea, and he was homesick, and he had to go back to Southampton because he's only a youngster. And maybe he's a little stretch up to North London, and being a year older might be as much as he could take. I very much doubt we'd ever see the like of Tyler Dibbling at St James's Park or training at Dorsley Park. It's not long ago we were linked with Diego Carlos, who went to Aston Villa. I know he got an injury not long after, and we all laughed and thought, oh, well, there you go. but for the grace of God, they spent a fortune on him. He's now gone on loan to Fenerbahce. If we were so desperate for defenders 18 months to a year ago, and there's a defender that a Premier League club's willing to let go, there would have been an option. But then you question, well, was he ever on our watch list at all? These are the sort of things that start to linger, isn't it? You start to question. Maybe the player has gone to Fenerbahce because he's no longer reaching the standard of football that his own club they expected from the injury. Maybe he hasn't come back well, but having said that, same injury as Sven Botman, and Sven seems to have come back firing on all cylinders. Who else we've been linked with recently? Well, there's one player that we've been linked with for well over a year now, and that's Sesko. And it seems to be Arsenal that's slipping around. And I think what we can say is that if there was the choice, that's where he would probably head. But again, probably because Newcastle aren't really in the mix for him. I personally think, and I'm sure you guys will have an opinion as well. I personally think that at the top of the club, we're gambling on Champions League football next season, and we're gambling on that from a financial reward. But it's a huge gamble because it's not just the money that they're hoping to be able to bring in terms of the sponsorship, but it's the gamble of whether we'll make the Champions League in the first place. Because I don't know, it's like I go back to the days of Keegan and things like that. Always, that's what I harp on about. But Kevin always speculated to accumulate. He was always that type of manager, and most managers are. The time to enhance your squad is when you're doing really, really well. You start to panic buy when you're not doing well. You start to go for players that really are not part of your plan or wouldn't have been part of your plan, but you're there. You're getting them in to show you up. Newcastle are we're on absolute high. Okay, we've just had one defeat in 10 games in the league. Now's the time to really, really push that team and that squad on. And I don't think we've got any chance of doing that. I think we're gambling with the squad we've got on getting us into the Champions League. And my concern is that if we don't make the Champions League, that's when the pressure comes for the likes of Isak and Joe Linton, Botman, and Isak. I think, yeah, and a Bruno to move on. Clubs will come in for them, and it'll be very, very difficult for us to keep them if the clubs that are looking at them are offering Champions League football, because it's another season that those players would have to wait. So I see that as the gamble that's being played at Newcastle at the moment. And I think that without the Champions League, you'll not get the massive sponsorship that we're looking for, because I don't really see that sponsorship materialising on a wing and a prayer of Champions League. Otherwise, it would be here now. I think the sponsors are waiting. And that's just more added pressure. It's for me, and I think I've said this to you guys before. We had a 5-year plan when Dan Ashworth came. We moved forward, and it became a bit of a 3-year plan. It was as though people talk about us moving on too quickly and this type of thing. But it was to me that you always move your plans forward. If things are going your way, then why sit and say, well, we're still on the same trajectory. And for me, we should have brought it forward. I think Mitchell's arrived, and all of a sudden it was a 5-year plan again. Well, I personally see that as an 8-year plan. I think that's where we're in. I genuinely do. I think that, and this is the danger, isn't it? When new people come into a football club in executive roles, they have their own ideas, and everybody has to conform to them, and it's as though everything else is forgotten about. So I'm deeply concerned. I'm disappointed. I may be proved wrong in the next 8 years, and we might suddenly end up with 2 or 3 big signings coming in, but I'll hang my hat on that we won't.
Neil, you're having a cup at night, so it could be a more measured run. So you're not going to be swinging.
I'm recovering from flu, and I feel like shite. So you're not going to get much out of us, I don't think. But we're at an interesting point Remember when it was all about would demand a team that tries, and etc.
Yeah.
Trying to rectify misconceptions about what Newcastle United fans want. And I think we've finally put that to bed. But there's now a growing restlessness that I perceive amongst the fan base, and it's not just amongst our chats, it's people that talk to me on social media, both openly and privately, speak to guys from the supporters club out here. About, well, hang on, where's everything going, and when are we going to start making moves in the transfer market, and when can we expect to see better? And it's the club that's driven that.
Yeah.
It's not us. It's what we've been told in documentaries. We want to be number one. Yeah, we do. And we can only be that if we're strengthened from a position of strength. Panic buying, as Steve rightly says, rarely gets it anyway. And I understand the frustration. I'm happy to be patient, but how many times do we have to listen to the same arguments as to why we can't do this and why we can't do that? We've made more kit launches than we have signings. There's another training kit out this week.
2 a month.
Cash grab, anyone?
Yep.
And I know we've got PSR things to fix, but, you know, and when I hear tales from, and it's not just the ordinary fan this is coming to people at all levels of investment into the fan base, on corporate level as well, with percentage increases year on year, whether you like it or not, and forthcoming and things like that. There's all sorts going on at all sorts of levels, but where are these sponsorship deals that would brought somebody in to sort? Apparently we're a hard sell without Champions League, is the word I'm
The job to be, mate.
Mm.
In the Middle East, I'll get your sales.
Exactly, mate. If the one person who genuinely could sell sand to Arabs is sat down there, and yeah, you could generate God knows what out here for, I tell you, I know that, mate. It frustrates us because it feels like we're not being given the full picture, and that people are hiding behind things, and that's just driving further frustration. In terms of what you're seeing moves in the transfer, the PSR's killed the January transfer window. There's no doubt about that. But then when you see there's players that City are signing, one of them apparently was always going to sign for us all along until the last minute. Now, how much of that is an agent fluffing Man City and using us because we're such an easy club to use in transfer discussions? But how much of that is true, don't know. I know that we have been active again this window. I know there's nothing happening. I still genuinely believe we'll be opportunistic, but by God, we're leaving it late. And that's adding to the frustration because we've got such an opportunity that we've got ourselves into now with that run of form. And yes, that came crashing down at the weekend. The game too far. Well, what was one of the reasons that came crashing down for me was on the bench, was there a point of difference, a game changer, or somebody who could really genuinely change it up and give you a different look? We had like-for-like changes, yes. We've always got like-for-like changes, and that's great. That adds to the depth, but it doesn't let us change a game scenario. And we desperately needed to do that. And there was nothing there. And that's where we're the one or two players short in that squad, that we've got a great first 11. We've maybe got a great 14. But past that, we need depth. And now is the time, surely, to be looking to improve that depth. And no, I've got totally understand why people are getting frustrated. I'm not as frustrated, personally. That might change when the window is quote-unquote slam shut. Maybe have a chat with us then. But I'll sit tight for now. But I think if there's people in St James's Park aren't getting the lay of the land at the minute and seeing where things are going and seeing what opportunities are being missed, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch in terms of relationships with supporters and relationships with the whole group, then I'm really genuinely missing a trick.
Okay, thanks, Mitch. Stu, what's your thoughts on this? And some people might think this is a bit of a downer, a bit of a negative, but it's we're recording this on the 23rd of January. Just over a week left of the transfer window. Another transfer window where it looks as if we're not going to be bringing anybody in, and a lot of us feel like the club is sitting on its hands. We feel as if nothing's happening, and we feel now that you've got to sell somebody to buy somebody. Miggy Almiron transfer might have gone through tonight, who knows, and might have gone through by the time you watch this on Friday. But, we're led to believe that should have happened on Monday. Monday gone. Yeah. Nothing's happened. Why is everything so slow with Newcastle United, even ins and outs? And why do we give people that opportunity to potentially come in and hijack our particular deals? Go on, Mitch, before Stu.
Sorry, just you're talking about Miggy. About an hour ago, Miggy posted something on Instagram that looked very much like a goodbye to me.
So that was so. Bearing in mind this is a pre-record. That was on Thursday. So hopefully by Friday he will have gone.
It was a series of pictures of him at Newcastle with his family, and then the last one is his arms around his wife with both of their backs to the camera, and they're walking away with suitcases.
Right. Well, that sounds very, very definite. So maybe we'll hear something, or maybe we will have heard something by the time Friday morning hits, when this goes out at tea time on Friday. So, yes, Stu, what's your feelings?
Maybe they just watched Paddington Bear and tried to replicate it. I don't know. It's the sort of thing. But you asked a lot of questions there. So thankfully and unsurprisingly, I've got a lot of answers. A lot to talk about anyway. Whether I have the answers or not is debatable. But going on from what Mr. Hasty said regarding Dublin, for those who have got knowledge of London, if someone's not comfortable in West London, they're certainly not going to move to N17 where Tottenham is. That's for certain. And I certainly do agree with Steve when he says, when he's talking about the need to spend this window, and it's not the old speculate to accumulate. For me, it's common sense. And the word I used on Sunday was it'll be negligent if they don't support anyhow, because look at the bigger picture. Remember, football's played on grass, not on balance sheets. Miggy's gone by the sounds of it. By the time people watch this, he may well have gone. But irrespective, even if he hasn't, it's been quite clear he's going and there's no future for him here. So you're not going to get 100% of a player who's got no future. So if that just leaves Jacob Murphy, and I feel like I'm repeating myself from the last few Sundays on the professionals, but he's had his little purple patch, and yeah, he's 100% committed, but what happens if he gets injured? What happens if he drops out of form, which is more than likely? He can't sustain that level. In the last two games we've had, there has been a drop in form, and this isn't about Murphy, it's about the lack of replacement for him. So there was figures released today, which for me indicates that some people at the club are crying wolf. Some people are sitting on their hands, just happy for the narrative to be pushed out that we've got no money and we're doing what we can. And as Mitch said, they're releasing new clubber, whether it's trainers, training gear, new shirts, T-shirts, tracksuits, shell suits, every other week, and of every colour of the rainbow. And they understand that the passion of the fan base is, we need this, I need that, I've got to have this, I've got to have that. So I always go back to Daryl's, like, we're in this together. Well, we're doing our part as fans. We're emptying ourselves financially, and some people probably too much to have the latest release. And it seems to be, at the moment, it's a one-way street, which then takes us on to my favourite well, not my favourite because I'd rather not be mentioning it, but the thing I referenced more within the boardroom is the commercial side of it. And I know with me and Mitch just joked before there, but I can guarantee you, you pay me, would I take a drop in wages? Joke. £500,000 a year to get sponsorships in for Newcastle United. I'd get a lot more than what's been put in currently. And that's just from this region alone. Because of the kudos. Now, Peter Silverstone should be over here speaking to people, getting an understanding of it. Yeah, there's a table. Look, if you stretch along to commercial, right? So it's quite clear because now Eddie Howe, who was initially asked about the new stadium, said he preferred to stay at St James's Park. The last 2 or 3 times he's been asked about it, he has alluded to the need for commercial revenue. So he's been told this is what you need to say now. It's not his own opinion anymore. He's been told this is the script. If you're saying it, you've got the ear of the fans. Get them to go along with the fact there's going to be a new stadium. And you know what? 90% of the fans will go along with it, provided it's in Lees's Park. So I don't understand what it's all about. But what annoys me is the lack of sponsorship, as you've just highlighted there, Steve. Now, I'll ask you to count this up as I'm asking. And we'll just do, 5 of us or 4 of us, because I'll be asking the question. How much do you think for the current sponsorship, current stadium sponsor, or until, let's say tomorrow they announce a new stadium's going to happen, and it'll take them 4 years to build it? Because Mitch and I will tell you, it's not like it's not like London builders where they'll a cup of tea every hour and they'll work 30 minutes in every hour. These people will have people working 24 hours round the clock, which again puts money into the secondary industry, the tertiary industry, the primary industry in the region. Everyone benefits from that new stadium being built. But let's say it takes them 4 years to build it from tomorrow, from the announcement. How much do you think we could get if we advertised properly a stadium announcement? You could sponsor St James Park for its last 4 years. How much do you think we could get per year for this full stadium? What's your answer, lads? Per year.
Per year, just for the sponsorship of the stadium.
Yeah, so we'll keep using Arango because it's the easiest one to use. Arango St James's for the next 4 years. The last 4 years of what people cry on about is the heritage, the history, blah, blah, blah. Your name will be synonymous with the end of it forever, which will be good times because the next 4 years should be better on the field. How much per year? Just rough figure.
Given the exposure that it would create worldwide, I would say that you were talking between 75 and 100 million pound
per year.
Yeah.
Mitch?
Maybe go a little less than that, 25 to 50.
George?
Well, on the basis that Arsenal get 30 for Emirates, I would be round about the 50 as well. And the other thing that I think we need to remember, if it became a Aramco St James's, I don't think anybody would be bothered about that. I think we'd be quite happy to see that with 50 million or 60 billion in the coffers for the club.
Okay, Steve, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I was going to go for the lower end. I would have said about £25 million per year, so £75 million deal for St James's as it is at the moment until we move, because it is going to take a while. So that's what I would reckon anyway. I would have said.
So I'm not trying to be a quiz master and fastest figures on the button, but let's lowball it. Let's say it's £20 million a year. So we're not getting any trouble with value for money. So the next one, stand sponsors. You can have, I don't know, Silla, East Stand, I don't know, Aramco, Gallagher End. You can get 5 million each for those. Yeah, agreed?
Yeah.
So the stadium is called one thing, the stands are called something else. There's 4 stands, or there was last time I was there. So there's 20 plus 20 is 40. The next one, trading kit sponsor, which we haven't got. Call it 5 million a year. And I'm lowballing, I know I am. There's 45. Travel sponsor, the planes that they fly on to every game, the coach that they drive to, that they use to drive to things. Call that 2 million. So where we're at now, 47. Training ground sponsor. Let's say 8 million a year. And I'm going lower because I know the value is a lot higher. We're now at 55. Last thing I wrote, and there'll be many smaller endorsements, like partnerships that could create. which would take it comfortably to 60 million. Not like your Man United tracked out associations and stuff like that, but let's say another 5 million. So just by doing those, and I've purposely lowballed, there's 60 million a year we could be getting for the next few years. Now, 60 million a year without amortization gets you one class player each window because you've got other revenue coming in. And when you talk about these sponsors, and the line that I feel like they're trying to give out is, oh, we're waiting. Well, us people who are Newcastle fans, and I don't want to regionalise it because there's Newcastle fans around the world now, we'll give you as much kindness as ever, but don't ever pay on our backs and tell us it's raining. And it feels like at the moment, I know this isn't, it sounds like a rant, but it's not meant to be. And it's all highlighted after the 10th game of a 9-game winning streak. But then people need to focus themselves on something. Is you can get these loan deals or these sponsorship deals, the stadium sponsor, which are purposely lowball at 20 million. There's your base rate. But if you qualify for the Conference League, we'll give you an extra 5 million. And they can justify that because they're going to play about 15 games in that. And that means that stadium is going to be seen around Europe another 15 times. Not by as many people if it was in the Europa League. So there's 10 million. The Champions League, there's another 20 million every single time. So even on the lowest rates, we've just generated 60 million by getting association sponsors that are success-related conditions. So whether it's negligence, whether it's laziness, the team isn't where it could be. Not where it should be, where it could be. And the frustration on Eddie Howe, it's palpable. You can see that he's sick of talking about off-field decisions. So we're talking about fair market value, and I've undercut fair market value. You wonder why Jacoby Solis has been brought in, who is the European, what's his correct title? It's European investment manager or something. He's in charge of PIF investment for the whole of Europe.
European investment.
There you go. And he's been brought into NE1 to sit in situ at St. James's Park. You tell me they're not saying, hang on, they're not happy, but they're not going to announce they're not happy. For me, they're saying, have a look at this. Some people might be sitting on their hands here, just taking their executive salaries and not doing anything about it, just loving the position. And Saudis won't let you waste the money like that. Or, if we're being positive, maybe there's some huge announcements and they need him on board to make sure it goes smoothly. So either way, it's a good thing. I know we discussed it when he was announced, but it's frustrating for me. And I've just messaged Mitch earlier and spoke to him earlier today as well. He knows I've spent the most of the day with a silly rich Saudi person. And I was asking him questions of how much do you think that sponsorship would give? And he's like, for the Premier League, the whole world sees this. And it's PIF, of course. The key word, we would pay extra for that. So this is why either Peter Silverson needs to base himself in the Middle East until he's ticked off all these sponsorship boxes and got more for it, and then drag someone from the Premier League with him to say, this is why you're getting the money. Don't question us in fair market value. Come and see why it is. And that's always been a bugbear for me, because as fans, we're going to suffer as Miggy goes, and they keep claiming poverty. You can't keep doing it for so long. You can't keep making mugs out of people and expect them to believe it. Eventually, the dog will bite if you kick it enough. And I think as a fan base, we've done our bit with the merchandise, with the support they get home and away, with the blind loyalty that we've given all our lives. And I think you've all got it. I'm not one of these people like, oh, let's keep our powder dry till the summer. Summer's too late. Sorry, we fall off. Isak gets injured as an example. Gordon has to then go centre forward. Who goes left wing? An injured Bonds. It rotates too many people. There's no right winger because Murphy's out of form or is injured. You then, shall we play Joe Linton there? Shall we play Livramento there? It doesn't work. And we're in a position now where we can attack. And I think that's what Steve was saying earlier. We should be going for this. Get the Champions League. Oh, we'll risk getting weight. Saudis don't do risks when it comes to their money. We get there and wait, and then, we finished 8th, but didn't we punch above our weight? Weren't we lucky? Yes, as we wave goodbye to Isak, to Tonali, to Gordon, to Joe Linton, to Bruno, maybe Hall. maybe you know what I mean. There's so many people have got ambitions, and this is where I get passionate about it, because sport is emotional. Balance sheets aren't, and at some stage they've got to say we have to back this manager, because without him, we could have been in there, or we would have been in the Championship, and we wouldn't even be talking about the Premier League. We wouldn't be talking about the Champions League. We wouldn't be talking about cup finals. He needs support, and he gets hung out with dry every single press conference because he has to answer questions when people are hiding. They should either confront the fans or at least speak to the fans and say, we're not going to spend their money. But those sheets that you put on, Steve, before the balance sheets for the last year shows there's money to spend. So don't kid a kidder. I'm sorry I went on far too long and took up too many people's time, but it's really annoyed us all week. And Mitch got a lot worse than that when I was speaking to him earlier, and a lot worse language as well. But I felt like I had to get that off my chest, because I feel at a minute they're insulting our intelligence, and that's a really bad move to do.
And just while I'm showing that, I just point out as well that, you know, teams in that top 6 or so, let's say Real Madrid, Man City, PSG, Man United, Bayern Munich, Barcelona. We can even include Arsenal and Liverpool in that because of the total amounts that they brought in. But when we say on here on a regular basis that, you know, only certain clubs could come in and buy Alexander Isak, well, that's the reason we say it, because, you know, again, that's the official Deloitte Football Money League at this present time, 2025, and that's why we always say, you know, likes of Real Madrid and a handful of others are the only teams that could literally break the bank to come in and get somebody like Isak. But also shows why teams like Newcastle, Aston Villa, West Ham in the Premier League are always going to be in a catch-up race, trying to catch up with those bigger teams.
And even when we do qualify for things like Champions League, the way UEFA keep the money for the rich boys and they hand out the broadcast money on a coefficient basis, we got far less broadcast money from the Champions League than any other, any of our sort of in that table in that were you know, so-called peers. We got far fewer broadcast money off the Champions League component. Yes, our broadcast money is high because we've got Premier League money, but we certainly don't get the broadcast money that Liverpool, Man U, Man City got off of the Champions League. You know, it's outrageous, really.
And we went out with the same stages, Man U.
Good thing is we're there. You know, we're 15th. We're moving. But I think the thing to say here is we're moving slowly. You know, we're moving at a snail's pace. We're not like the juggernaut that we all hoped we were going to be when the Saudi owners took over. And that's down to, you know, numerous reasons. You know, some of them, you know, PSR related. But you have to say that a lot of it's down to the fact that figure in the very, you know, the one but last column is low. Commercial income, 89.7
I've just added 60 to it, Steve.
You've just added 60 to it, yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Without even pushing.
Exactly, yeah. George, you've very rare you go last, but I guess it's giving you time to listen to the lads and hear what they've got to say and give your slant.
They're putting into words my frustration. Oh, by the way, you want to buy some more kit? Have a look at these. Have a look at these black and white socks. They're bloody lovely. And thank Luna very much for knitting them for us. So anyway, I tell you what, nobody was more excited than I was when the takeover happened. I think you all know that. I mean, and I got the chance to express it on that video and so on. What I feel like now is, after listening to the lads and listening to Stu particularly, is I feel like I've dropped into a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. You know, when Wile E. Coyote chases the runner bird and the legs are gone 60 to the dozen and then the runner bird stops and Wile E. Coyote has to go backwards and he makes the skid marks. Well, I'm busy making the skid marks on Newcastle United at the moment. It's so frustrating. It's more frustrating because nobody talks to us, to the fans. We haven't really, there's not a real voice. You know, and when there was a voice at the top, he used to do the thing that gets right up my nose and go to the stag and sing Bladen races. Well, we've had some of that, and I'm getting tired of it as well. And the interesting thing is that it's a bit like history repeating itself. when Seymour was chairman, every penny we got, he used to buy players. There was one stage in the early 50s we had 40 first team players. We didn't even have substitutes in those days. So, you know, that frustration's going through, and eventually was the end of Seymour. Well, the frustration's back again with what's happening now. The only movements that you can see definitely have been younger players disappearing who might not even have made the first team. But in terms of prominent players for the first team, it just isn't happening in or out, apart from Miggy, if it sounds like he's going. And then this morning, or was it last night, I was looking, and one site was saying that, you know, Trafford's just about ready to sign. You know, but everybody's on that list just about ready to sign, if you believe the website or the agent or anybody, or Uncle Tom Cobley and all. So it's just sheer frustration for all the fans, and I feel it as well. It just nobody putting their head above the parapet. Nobody that's of consequence, apart from poor Eddie. And I think if Eddie had the shackles off, and a journalist was able to say, "Well, tell me what you really think, Eddie," I think you'd get a different story. I'm sure you would. It would blow their socks off, because he's got to put up with putting right what goes wrong on the pitch with the resources he's got, without apparently having much say in how he gets to correct them. I wonder what it would be like if Eddie was able to be a real manager and say, "Well, that's who I want. That's who I'm going to get." And look at the fuss that we had last summer because of Crystal Palace, you know, bleating to the press every offer we made. It will make it look like mugs. Mind it, kiss of death for him, because he hasn't had a good game since, has he? But on the other hand, it just made we look silly, and fans will put up with that for not much longer. I can tell you. Maybe we've seen a bit of that the other night when the other day when it all went home in 75 minutes. You know, I said the other day that people have always gone home, but never at 75 minutes. I've never seen that, and it was horrendous. It really was. So whoever's out there thinking and listening, we do want a team that tries, but I want the upper echelon to try as well, become more visible. And I think the appointment of this new director is deliberately to make PIF and the upper echelons more visible as much as anything, because they're all silent. Nobody's saying anything about anything. So it's just sheer frustration, Steve, as you can gather from what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, as we're on air, like tonight, Thursday, the 23rd of January, Craig Hope's just put a story out about 10 minutes ago, suggesting that Newcastle's new training ground will be designed by the firm that was behind Real Madrid's super base and Spurs' stadium. Of course, full details on this are behind a paywall, which I refuse to pay for. But yeah, it's another announcement there. So maybe they all get their ducks in a row, before there is announcements on kind of sponsorship. But no matter what, the reason we've started this show in this particular way is about transfers. That's not going to help transfers overnight.
No.
I just say, Steve, I jotted down before while Mitch was talking. I said, I can show you. I said, I wonder if there are people up in Newcastle who don't want us in Europe next season because it's too early in the 5-year plan. And the reason I'm saying that is, you look at last weekend, and we were told after 9 games on the run, mentally and physically, we were jaded. Right now, if this was next season, right, and we'd had a 9-game run, and we had the same squad of players, those players would have been playing on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night. They would have been playing in the Europa or the Champions League or the Conference, right? It's the same squad of players. And let's face it, mentally and physically, those players couldn't manage a 9-game run that we've just had without European football. That's where, when we talk about, and Mitch talks about the depth of the squad, the numbers, the quality over and above the 14, you've got to have more than like for like. You've got to have players that are that are at least as good as the players who are coming off, and it's got to be in the depth, not just 14 plus a bunch of what, let's call them also rans, because they're not better than any of the players. You wouldn't select them ahead of anyone else. And because of that, we're kind of hamstrung. Now, we will be hamstrung next season. If we go into next season, if we get into the Champions League, and unless there's massive investment, we'll be in exactly the same boat as we were the last time. We'll be told we're tired, players are injured, but those injuries will be coming in the October, not in the January previously.
That then brings in something else into play that's been on my mind: the average age of our squad.
Yep.
The average age of our squad is creeping up. We're going to have to invest in the summer to start to freshen the squad up in terms of age and longevity. We need 18 players plus 3 or 4 kids that are better than average, that you can introduce into games without worrying too much about it, who can spell people here and there. We've got the essence of that, but just the essence of it. And that's the problem. And we've got too many players, 30 plus, approaching the ends of contracts, that we have to replace. And you have to replace with quality. That's not going to come cheap. So I can understand a degree of trying to plan for a summer with a degree of churn. But that's going to happen. They have to happen in the summer after that.
Yeah.
And probably the summer after that as well. There's a lot of things to fix from a PSR perspective there.
But Mitch, would the summer not be better if we've got a Champions League campaign to attack?
Yes.
Rather than we've balanced this year. And that goes back to what Steve was saying. You spend 50 million and get the right winger in, and with the strong wind behind us, we'll get Champions League. We're in a position to, again, Eddie Howe's got the squad overachieving, but you can't continuously do that. But by giving them that backing, you can't go 3 windows and expect to improve without signing someone. You can't. So get the right winger, get us into the Champions League, then it's a different proposition. The money you've spent will be recouped with new sponsorships. Even on my model, we've achieved more, so you have to pay us more. It's all very plausible, and I know I simplify things, but it's not as complicated as some try to make it out to be. And that's the whole issue of it. You then go in the summer and say, right, I'll use the figures, don't quote us, I'm not betting, 200 million to spend because we've been very good boys for the last 3 windows. We've only got 150 million to spend because we've got that excellent right winger. But we can offer you Champions League football. Only 5 clubs in the Premier League maximum will be able to offer them that. Let us be one of them. And then start attracting the quality, then shipping the way, as Mitch rightly says, we've got aging centre halves, aging goalkeepers. So it's quite clear where we need to add in the summer. But now is the priority. The summer will look so much better, even with the deficit, by getting the right winger that we're crying out for, and a right winger that can cover in the middle. And I know I mentioned Jonathan David I think it was on the professionals, and he's going to see his contract out and take more money. You don't blame him for that. But there's more than 1 or 2 players in world football that could improve our right side and provide cover for the centre forward if necessary. And for me, it's a risk not to invest in this window. And that's why I keep saying it's negligent until we do.
It's a risk for the team, though, Steve. It's a risk for the team. Because don't you think that people like Gordon and Isaac, Bruno, they're all expecting to have somebody alongside them that's better than what they've got as well.
They've all been promised that, George. Come to us, we're on an upward curve.
Yeah.
Imagine you're the next piece of the jigsaw. Well, actually, 2 years later, you're the last piece of the jigsaw.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Don't pay in our backs and tell us it's raining. And the players are exactly the same. We're stuck with this club for life. We're lifelong fans. They've got shorter careers and they've got their own personal ambitions. And we can't take their loyalty for granted. As much as they love being here, they've got their own ambitions. And most of them, the top players that we've got, can go elsewhere and get more money for it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you described roughly what's happened at Man City this season in terms of not buying for the 2 transfer windows, then the aging squad catching up with them, the results not coming in Europe, the injuries that have caught up with them. But what they've been able to do in this window is go out and spend 150 million on 3 young players because of being able to say, by the way, Champions League football, because we've got that, you know, and
Yeah.
that they'll now step forward as the players come back. You know, okay, this is where it's like understanding all the different pieces of the pie. And I don't think we understand, and I don't think we want to understand all those pieces yet. I think the learning curve that we are on is from a boardroom level. It's one of, as I said right at the very start, it's always looking 5 years on, 5 years on. They're missing the chunk. They're missing opportunities, and they're missing the chunk. And I'm sure there'll be articles in the next couple of days where, as we get closer and closer to the PSR window, we've seen one or two already, little snippets, but they'll suddenly start to say, but it was under Amanda Staveley. Look at all the money. Look at the gamble that you did. Look at the gamble buying. Hang on a minute. Anthony Gordon was 2.5 seasons ago, for goodness sake, but it'll still be rammed down my throat, you know?
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, Steve, because you've preempted an article that Luke Edwards has just put out today as well, saying that it was a gamble, saying that Amanda gambled. That's not the way it's going to be done now. You know, that's not the way that Newcastle operate in as far as transfers. So that's weird that you would come out and say that, because that's literally just another one. I'm just keeping an eye, with us not having to keep an eye on the chat. It gives us a chance to search for stuff and have a look on the internet when you guys are talking, in case there's anything there that I can put up to benefit. And yeah, Luke Edwards, again, it's behind a paywall. I refuse to pay for paywalls on newspapers. And
Well,
some
teach
people
you how to get behind a paywall.
Some people are kind enough to send us them. So, but it's not live. So
you're getting to feel what I'm like when I do those with a days, Steve.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, that's in essence, they're just saying, you know, it's the headline. The headline here is, under Amanda Staveley, Newcastle gambled. Now they stick rather than twist. When it came to transfers, she wanted to give supporters and the manager what they wanted all of the time. That is no longer possible, Steve. What do you make of that?
You know what? I think what they're missing there is the fact that during that period of time, she had the ear of PIF. She had the ear of Al Ramayan. She had the ear of the chairman. And she was able to sell to the chairman the ambition. She was able to sell him the dream. And she had the ear of Jamie Rubin, and they were the finance people. And I think what's happened is that yes, do we want to call it a gamble? I didn't call it a gamble going buying Anthony Gordon. I think everybody thought it was really good business. We're in the final of the Carabao Cup at the time. You know, we went out and we speculated to get us into the Champions League. Was that a gamble? Well, if that was a gamble, it paid off. You know, it got where it wanted to be. But they had the ear. What hasn't happened is, in the boardroom, we haven't moved on. We haven't moved on with the ambition. We haven't moved on with the financial acumen to be able to continue that advancement. And Stewie's laid it out perfectly. From a commercial perspective, we've relied on Adidas deal. That's basically, that 89 million is, hang on, Phoenix haven't thrown a boatload of money in. We know that. Phoenix is not the sort of company that's going to avoid 50 or 60 million. You know, the Phoenix will be like a £4 million or even less deal, and it's getting a little bit of flashing around and sitting behind. Salah was a big one, but that was what we were told was 25 million over 3 seasons. So that wasn't massive. It's relied on the Adidas, and that's basically been it. Salah and Adidas with a little bit of an £8 million for Noon on the shoulder to replace what was a relatively small deal anyway. So this is where the work needs to be done, and I don't think there's the wherewithal to be able to drive us forward in the boardroom to keep Amanda happy, to keep that the way that she wanted the club to develop as much as anything else. Because you're right, yes, she was very, very much a fan, but you've within the boardroom, there's got to be the ambition, and there's got to be with the wherewithal to drive your ambition forward, not to stall at a transfer window. Go, I'm ambitious, but I've got no money. You know, it's your job in the boardroom to go out and drag your commercial department by the ears and say, and grab them by the shoulders and give them a shake and say, come on, where's the commercial deals, guys? This is what I'm paying you big bucks for. Where's the commercial deal?
Exactly.
Commercial deals will bring the success on the foot. The players are doing their best. They're going on 9-game runs. We're sitting there like sixth now, well, fourth in the league at the weekend. The opportunity's there, but if you guys in the commercial department cannot put it all together for us, that's going to die. That's going to be killed off. And I think it's a good excuse. I think it's a good PR way of putting little stories out like that says, well, it was Amanda, really, she gambled. And I've heard fans saying it, and I understand where they're coming from, but I'm from a totally different side of the fence when it comes to that, I'm afraid.
Getting brainwashed, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you tell people you've got nothing, you accept something is better than getting out.
Yeah.
And for me, there's a lack of culpability. There's a lack of ownership. This is my role, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. There's more of people sitting back admiring, I did that good, and just sitting back and enjoying it. Sorry, you can't sit backwards. You can't sit still in this industry. You've got to keep moving forward. And
so like leadership as well at St James's Park at the moment.
Well, if you look at, as you said, Steve, 40 million for Adidas, 25 million for Seller. How much else is coming in? Was it 14 million? You tell me that you can't generate more than 40 million pound a season for this club. Someone's at the wrong job.
Yeah. And the other side of it for me is that you can say what you like about Amanda. She delivered. She was visible, but you could see what she was doing and what she was delivering. And
George, I'm in total agreement with you, but it would be wrong of me to say anything bad about the fabulous bard that is Luke Edwards. But to call it a risk, it's just one-sided writing, and for me, it's clickbait. Because where were we? Where were we when they took over?
Look,
we were going to get relegated, and
in the championship.
And the wiser and wealthier man that is Simon Jordan stated clearly we could spend £600 million without any FFP kickback. We haven't even spent that 3 years later, and they had to spend that money. And guess what? They've spent it fantastically. Where was the risk in staying in that league? Where we're missing out is the plain side is when that far ahead, the commercial side's been left behind. That tells me people aren't being accountable for their own jobs. And I know it sounds like a moaning, and we should we all be grateful? Of course we should. We've got one of the best teams we've ever supported in our lifetimes. But at the same time, we know we could be better. And when people are making mistakes or not pulling their own weight and hiding behind excuses, I know personally Saudis don't believe in excuses. They look for problems. Anyone can give you excuses. It's the ones that give you the solutions that are rewarded. And they should have people in that position 3.5 years on now that can come up with, look, I can do this. Be creative. Think out of the box. Show your worth. Because I guarantee everyone on that board is on 6 figures easy per annum. And what you're getting for it? We would like to, but and as Steve Hasty was saying, a 3-year plan becomes a 5-year plan. What happens if they do start getting rid of people? Someone else comes in, oh, that wasn't my plan. I'll give you a new free. Well, could be 12, 15, 20 years down the line.
Exactly.
PAF don't do business like that. They'll grow, and I've said this repeatedly, they'll give you as much money and much support as possible. But if you're not delivering what you've set out to do in your interview, masalama, as they say over here. Goodbye.
Mitch?
We're in a situation whereby they could even still chuck certain things back to the Ashley era. Because what they took over was a ghost ship. When Silverstone was appointed, Sunderland still had a bigger commercial department than Newcastle United did. And it means, and I think this is reflective, of all the areas where we see problems that are upsetting fans at the moment. Dare I mention the word ticketing. Box office, I think we should say. Certain levels of supporter services, certain levels of other areas of hospitality. That's, thank you very much, Steve. I was struggling for the words there. And other levels of the club where there's people in place still from that Ashley era whose mindset is no different, and fans are seen as antagonistic and inconvenient. But effectively, that's what they've got to roll with, and there hasn't been a culture change within the club, top to bottom. To get that, it's going to take a long time, or it's going to take somebody to really look at how the club functions, top to bottom, and be ruthless about it. And I don't think that's happened. So we have a number of things that we needed to correct in a short period of time, and it was never going to be perfect. But to see the whispering campaigns and the little bits here and there is disappointing. There's no need for it, really. Just suck it up, man up, and get on with it. It's like, how many feasibility studies do we need? I know they know what they already want to do. And they've known for ages. Stop dressing up feasibility studies and charades of interaction so you tick the boxes and you don't get nasty letters from the trust or what have you. Just get on with it and do what you think's the best thing for the club. I have every faith that the people that make the overall big decisions have everything, the sole positive and correct intention for Newcastle United. Where they're going to fall down is when little personal fiefdoms get threatened and people in the mid-tiers start to vie for position and their lives start to get affected by it, and they then become the drug shoots to certain processes. It was never going to be easy. But the growing unease that's permeating, it just ties in with everything we've discussed so far. The growing unease that permeates throughout the fan base now, and there's even people doubting Piff's intention and Piff's long-term investment, and are they going to hang around really? And have they been pissed off by PSR? Yeah, I'm quite sure they have been pissed off by PSR, but at the same time, it doesn't mean they're going anywhere. We need some sort of positive leadership from those from PIF on the board to make some statements, support the first team and back Eddie. Chuck the fans a bone, something. Sod your feasibility studies. Just tell them what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then we'll get on with it. Stop dancing around the handbags. And that's the kind of thing we need now. We need somebody to actually grab the bull by the horns and lead. Because otherwise, we're going to just dwindle into wherever we end up. And that's not right.
See, over the last 3 years, not only has the fan base become supporter or remain supporters of Newcastle United, we've got part-time accountants now, and we've all been like trying to work things out, and it shouldn't be like that, but that's how it is. But those things I pointed out earlier were simple things, and are purposely lowballed. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's what needs to be explained. Why aren't these things getting done? And I'm with you. And I know we say this in every show that we're on. PAF commitment to us is bigger and better and stronger than anyone ever needs to know. And I know that. I know that they're committed to us for many different reasons, but not just in Newcastle, to the region, because long term it will make them money. You know, you've got an area full of hard workers, an area that's full of loyalty and grateful. Don't take advantage of it. And if someone's not up to the job, and I genuinely believe this is why Solace has come in, there's many people who will be watching this that work in offices, etc. And who's the best boss you've got? The one that leads by example, or the one who walks down the corridor with a swanky swagger, with his hands in his pockets, saying, "I'm the boss, do this." You know, the answer's obvious. And what they're lacking upstairs, as I said before, is a lack of leadership, where on the pitch they've overexceeded. off the field, they've underachieved. And sorry, you can't get better if they're both not overachieving, or at least achieving what with the conditions set out in front of them. And this is not a blind defense of Eddie Howe, because like all of us in life, he will make mistakes, but he's willing to put the work in, and he'll do as much as he can to improve himself. And until I'm proven wrong, I think there's people in positions of power in that club that are comfortable on where they are, and they're using other things as an excuse rather than trying to find solutions to get around it. And if I can sit there and list 5 or 6 different things that we all agreed would bring in, and some of you said 75, some said 50, some said 35. I said 20 million. The fan base now, because we've all become used to this PSR and what's needed, I don't think there'd be less than a handful of people that would complain if there was a sponsorship deal for the stadium for the next 4 years that brought money in this club, because all we want as fans is the best team possible on the pitch. And with the restrictions off, with the league, etc., we're not able to get the best team that our owners want to give us. So what's missing? And it's quite clear there's the money that needs to be generated. And that, for me, there's a huge void there. And I'll never settle until it's done. And even when it is done, I'll say, why wasn't it done earlier? Because we can get more money because of this. You can easily write a contract. Players write contracts. If a bid comes in for this amount, I've got the right to speak to them and leave. Okay, we write a contract. This is what you pay as a minimum. If we achieve this, you pay more. And it's simple. It is simple. And why it's not getting done is the thing that bothers me most about this new regime.
Okay, we are halfway through the show. We'll have a quick ad break back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Contact them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or email www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. Email them info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2 crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges, all excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. Their website is media-arts.co.uk. And we're also available as a podcast. You can find us on Sports Social, Podcast Network, iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up that likes each video, and click share to share to your social media. Some Newcastle United events coming up. An evening with the entertainers, 24th of January 2025. Box office number is 0191 243 1171. Or website, Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. An evening with Lee Clark takes place on the 31st of January at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are available on Voucher or from newcastlelegends.com. An afternoon with Celeste Ferdinand takes place on the 6th of April 2025, 12 p.m. till 4 p.m, and that's at the O2 City Hall in Newcastle. Tickets from www.ticketmaster.co.uk or from Voucher. And did you get a book voucher for Christmas? Then why not buy The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy by Will Scott. Priced $18.99, also available from newcastlelegends.com. Okay, welcome back to the Three Amigos. It is a pre-recorded show, but we've still got time for a bit of this. And if you're easily offended, it's a good time to look away, to be honest, especially with some of the tweets we've had this week. I've got to stop drinking though, lads. I thought this cat had a hole in it. Yeah, some of these photographs at angles, great stuff. Darts, well, we had a wonderful final over the Christmas period, and I've never heard of this guy. Tim Pussy, the Magnet is his nickname. Yeah, Bill the Power Taylor. This one from Des, thank you for this. How's the diet going? Not good. I had eggs for breakfast. Scrambled? Cadbury's. I think most of us can relate to that over the course of January. And can't wait to try this blueberry bread. They were on special.
Nice bit of mould.
Jimmy, thanks for this one. He says, tweet of the week, why spelling is important. Mini dog nuts for sale.
Oh.
And Tango Oscar November, thank you for this one. R.I.P. Sheila, tweet of the week. Sheila's brown bread, apparently. And stolen prosthetic arm discovered in second-hand shop. Oh, the irony.
Yeah.
And remember when Walkers did this? Yep. Well, you'll be looking to find crisps inside a packet these days.
That's true.
Aye.
And I'm not sure why this guy is promoting hair care in America. But Dwayne Johnson, yeah, I am not quite sure why he's promoting that. We do like signs on here. This is quite a subtle one at the end of somebody's drive.
Oh, dear.
Clearly,
Not welcome anyway.
That could be Bobby Mitch, couldn't it?
I do like a good menu, and I do like a bit of spam, lads. Egg and bacon, egg, sausage and bacon, egg and spam, egg, bacon and spam, egg, bacon, sausage and spam, spam, bacon, sausage and spam, spam, egg, spam, spam, bacon and spam, 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 egg and spam, 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 baked beans, spam, 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 spam and spam, and lobster thermidor or crevettes with a Mornay sauce garnished with truffle pate, brandy and a fried egg on top, and spam. £35 an hour. I think I'll have the last one. Can you just read that menu again?
Breakfast.
It definitely is, yeah. That's my era. Unattended children will be given a Red Bull and taught how to swear in this bar. And if you think you're going to the funeral, have second thoughts about that at Burger King. We're all sad about Tom, but going to his funeral won't bring him back. No time off will be given. Thanks. And Ugly Camel, thanks for this one. Different types of fangs. Twilight, yep. Underworld, yep. Dracula, yep. Weatherspoons, yep. And cosmetic surgery doesn't really appeal to me. I don't think any of the lads have had any either. Just checking. No, definitely not. But when I see lips like this, this is what it reminds us of, lads.
Dear me.
Very good.
And moving on to the eyes. Marijuana, cocaine, gas, electricity and water bills. And a little bit of humour. We do like that on a Friday, don't we? Tweet of the week here. Car for sale, 25,000 BC Roadster, rust-free, air blows, cold, foot brakes, well under 10 million miles, wood body panels, original seats. This is a solid car, lads.
Look at that. Fred Flintstone, eat your heart out.
And originally they were going to make 2 Yogi Bears, but they made a boo-boo.
Oh.
No.
Unfortunate names on Facebook. We've had a few. This one's probably one of the more interesting names, shall I say. Stacey Swallows, congratulations. She just got a job at Siemens. And hey, James, remember me? We love these WhatsApp ones. It's Jenny. We met on zipcodehose.com about 8 months ago and had a one-night stand. Ah, yeah, I remember you. What a wild night that was. Send a pic, babe. I'm horny and having flashbacks. You've got the wrong number. My name's Gordon. And porn gives young people an unrealistic and unhealthy idea of how quickly a plumber will come to your house. And my wife asked me to pass her the lip balm by mistake. I accidentally gave her the super glue. She's still not talking to us.
Boom, boom.
Ka-ching.
And I just want to say, I always trust the NHS. They were excellent removing a mole from the arse, unlike the RSPCA, who will prosecute me if I do it again.
Brilliant.
And nothing refreshes my memory of what I need at the grocery store like coming home from the grocery store. Coming into the business end now, why do male lawyers wear wigs? So they can argue like women, was the reply.
Probably brave.
And celebrity musician Billy Joel wanted for questioning by LA police, who claim he may be responsible for starting the LA fires. The 75-year-old adamantly denies this allegation, claiming that fires have been burning since the world's been turning. And this bird is so talented, it crapped a selfie on this guy's car window.
Fantastic, man.
And Yoga Master, and we must have known Stu was coming, Jägermeister.
Nah, that's just an apprentice, that, Steve.
It is, yeah. I trained my dog to fetch beer. It may not sound too impressive, but he gets them from the neighbour's fridge.
Oh, good.
And another one from Jimmy. This is not the kind of weather to be out here hot dogging.
Oh,
Man.
Jimmy.
Definitely not. Definitely not, mate. Another one of those games from Rob Mitchell, the Land Before Time Tar Pit playset. Looks great.
Yeah,
And a Katie Price special at KFC, lads. Again, if you're easily offended, look away. 2 skinny thighs, 2 large breasts, and a massive bucket. That's what I call British banter. Thank you for that one. And
DRV.
just got the missus a new reg plate. And a bit of humour, a bit more highbrow humour from Ian this week. There is no God. That's a blasphemer, lads.
Oh.
Dr. Neil would appreciate that one. I knew he would. Mere Dad is in our tweets of the week this week. Excited to see what this administration will do over the next 4 years to reel Donald Trump. Dan Law said, I hope he gets rid of PSR.
Brilliant.
And a couple of Star Wars ones. Ewoks are meant to be left outside. They're Endor pets.
Wow.
Oh.
And warning, this toy is a choking hazard.
True.
Yeah, cheers, Ian. And a Star Trek one to follow them. I joined a carpenter's class last week. Have you made anything yet? We've only just begun. Thank you, Keith. Gives us the chance to get the vocal cords going. I had to read this one twice, but I did eventually get it. Tall, skinny, gluten-free, self-absorbed, high maintenance, wants a latte. And Pat says, keep your flaps and knockers clean, everybody.
Yep.
Tweet of the week from Soda Pop Kid. At last, a bit of honesty from the Highways Department. Work starts here 5th of January for 147 years. Delay is possible. Okay, top 3. Number 3, Denise. Well done. It was a crap kind of cruise. Rained a lot, but they had a great buffet. I had 2 of everything, says the lion. Darren Golden, this was great. I've never laughed so much. First thing in the morning, driving to a course, and then I've had these last couple of days listening to your pod. Some of the stories are just brilliant. Byrony. What do you expect here? Him to be like, oh, cheers, Daz. Really enjoyed making it. Thanks for the feedback. Enjoy your course, fella. Peter Crouch then replies, cheers, Daz. Really enjoyed making it. Thanks for your feedback. Enjoy your course, fella. Absolutely priceless, that. The winner was this one, and really because of the Pavel shirt, if nothing else. I absolutely love this top. It is excellent quality, including the print on the back. It's that stunning that when I tried posting a photo of it on Facebook to share with friends, it was refused as flagged up as pornography. Excellent stuff. If you've got a tweet of the week, send it to me at the email address, nufcmatters1892@gmail.com, or find the Facebook group or Facebook page, stick them on there, and we'll pick the best for next week. Move on to football before we look ahead to the game at the weekend, and that is because TalkSport did a poll, which I stumbled across this week, lads, and it was about worldwide strikers. Harry Kane got 16% of the vote. Erling Haaland got 70% of the vote. Alexander Isak got 45% of the vote. We've talked on here in recent weeks on the professionals and the Amigos about putting players on pedestals. And I thought, yeah, it's a poll, lads. I don't know how many people entered the poll, but it's Talk Sport. There'll have been a few thousand. Is that accurate? Is Alexander Isak the best striker in the world at this moment in time, Steve? Because I would say he's not. I would say Erling Haaland's probably the best. Harry Kane, I think, has cheated his way into that a little bit as well. Is this just a reflection on who votes on these polls, who's got more time off during the day? I don't know, but I'm a Newcastle fan. I think Alexander Isak's great. I think he's got a lot to learn. I think he's got a lot to improve in his game. He scores more goals than I could, but let's face it, he's no Alan Shearer. But he is a very, very good player who has the potential to be one of the best strikers in the world. But he's won Sweet FA. He's won nothing. Haaland's been there, done it, won it. Not just once, but twice on some of the trophies. Harry Kane is, for me, he's the proverbial bridesmaid, never the bride. He's not really won a great deal in his career. Yeah, he's guided England, through competitions against substandard opposition and got us to finals, which we've ultimately lost. But he's never won anything in the Premier League. He's not won the Premier League. He's not won anything at home that he can shout about. He's had to go to Germany to try and get himself a dust collector before he hangs his boots up. And Alexander Isak, like I say, is still learning. He's young, he's learning, and he's got the potential to be there. But is he the best striker in the world at the minute, Steve? I think I've given my opinion.
On form, he's the best striker, no question about it. He is the man in the hot seat. He's the man who's on fire at the moment. He's performing consistently in the Premier League. He's getting goals and he's exciting everyone who watches him. So he's the voice, if you like. He's the name that's on the tip of everybody's tongue. Erling Haaland is one of those. None of them are like out and out strikers, I would say that, and I certainly wouldn't class Isak as an out and out striker. I think Isak has all the skills. He has all the skills that Erling Haaland doesn't have as a footballer. Erling Haaland is goal machine, goal machine, goal machine. That's it. Put the ball in front of him and you put it in the back of the net. Isak links up there, he runs down, he plays the line. He's not that good in the air, but we've seen him score some interesting goals with his head. But he's very much a player. He's all his feet and he's magical at that. None of them can lace Alan Shearer's boots when it comes to strikers. But there's a dearth of strikers at the moment. There aren't many strikers who leave the line. They tend to pull away. They tend to rely on through balls. Isak would be even higher up in the voting if he could manage to put away some of the one-on-ones he gets. If he gets too close to the goalkeeper and he starts to think, then you know it will go awry. When he's 25 yards out and he puts a shot in like he did against Liverpool, you know it's going to go in the back of the net. That's the Alexander Isak. But when you release him and he's trying to do that little shimmy that some players in the past have been able to do with ease. He seems to struggle at that. That's the only part of his game at the moment that I would criticise. And I look back and I think of the number of chances that he's had when he's been one-on-one this season. He could be right up there and way ahead of everybody. He's Mo Salah's class as a midfielder, and Mo Salah's top of the goal scoring lists season in, season out. Was Lionel Messi a striker? I'm not too sure. Ronaldo was a striker who was a winger, really, and so was Thierry Henry, I suppose, and converted. The difference between, I suppose, Ronaldo and everybody is that Ronaldo was very much him. He had the confidence that if you give him the ball, he's going to score the goal. He got annoyed when he wasn't given the ball. When somebody got a goal in an opportunity when he could score, that's sort of like his mentality. Messi was the Peter Beardsley, the best example you can get of a wonderful player with the ball at his feet who can do anything with it, can feed anyone a pass, can score goals for fun, can create his own stuff, can lay goals on. Is Isak the best? He's probably the best at the moment. He's the informed striker, Steve. And I think when you have a poll like that, that's basically all you can vote on. You know what you're seeing on Match of the Day, what you're seeing on Sky, what you're seeing on TNT. Isak needs to be in Europe, and he needs to be playing consistently in the Champions League for it to be classed as the best in the world overall over a period of 2 or 3 or 4 seasons. He's not going to get that, and he's not going to be called that. Unless we're in the Champions League, to be perfectly honest. It's rather like Erling Haaland. The one thing that he will really struggle with is international football, because his country is not at the peak internationally. And that's Haaland's downfall. It was Ryan Giggs' downfall when people talked about that. George's Best's downfall. They weren't playing for a country that was shining on the international stage, and that's probably the only restriction he will have in terms of that vote. But if he plays consistently in the Champions League and Newcastle start winning things, his value is going to skyrocket, and the votes are just going to become more and more. He's going to get more and more of them. But at the moment, I just see he's the man in form.
All right, Mitch, what do you feel about this? Alexander Isak, the best striker in the world?
Well, you'd certainly say if you take the top leagues across Europe, he's the informed striker in Europe. There's no doubt about that. What is a number 9 these days, though? We talk about Shearer and Ferdinand and what have you, and I think the days of that kind of number 9 are gone at the moment. Even Harry Kane, mentioned into that conversation. He's, a couple of years ago started dropping deep and created a problem for Spurs that they still haven't corrected. And created a problem for Southgate by playing that way as well. You hear Arsenal bleating on about the want the proper number 9. Well, good luck in finding one, because there's not one out there for you lads. And the closest that you'll get to that at the moment is probably Isak, and he has the ability to score any kind of goal you like, and he has the ability to improve, and that's what's frightening, really. And if we can hold on to him and back up and get Champions League football for him and back him up with quality signings into that squad, he could do anything he wanted over the next 4 or 5 years. I genuinely think, if we can sort out these one-on-ones, he's shown he can score fantastic goals with his heads, even though he's not the best header of the ball. He's scored a couple this season with his head that were fantastic. He can drop off and he can pull wide, and he's got the ball skills. And I guess similar to Shearer, sometimes when he's crossing the ball, he would like to be on the end of those crosses. But yeah, I don't think it's a overstatement to say certainly the best striker in Europe, and on form possibly in the world. Yes.
Okay.
But form, as we know, is temporary. Class is permanent, and if we can keep him firing on all cylinders and improving, that class will come through over the next 3 or 4 years.
What's your thoughts, Stu, on this? It's just a poll. Like I said, I'm not sure how many people voted on it.
He's not a poll. He's Swedish.
I'll try and keep it brief because I'm conscious I took too much airtime up in the first half. So what I will say is none of the three of them are close to Alan Shearer. Call it biased if you want, but he could do everything. But if you're judging it on out of those three on goal scoring, then Haaland's the best striker the UK has seen since Arthur Scargill. If we're talking about Newcastle United, then I'd have Alexander Isak every day of the week over the other two, because the way that we play, the other two would be passengers, and we couldn't afford to carry passengers in that team. Kane would just convolute things by dropping back, and there's no one in that position. Haaland would just stand there and not put energy in. Isak's capable and willing to do everything that's required of him. And I wouldn't swap him for any striker in the world. So if that's the poll, who's the best striker in the world for Newcastle United? It's Alexander Isak.
All right, George.
Well, it's a poll at a time when every pundit in the world wants Alexander Isak to go to Arsenal. So the only name they're getting in the polls at the moment, on social media at the moment, because of the way he's playing, is Alexander Isak. There is the potential for him to be, well, and his mentor, Ibrahim Ibrahimovic from Sweden, even he thinks he's going to be the best in the world, but going to be. At the moment, he's the best on form. And the reason that it twists the poll is because that's what people are being fed. That's what people are being looking at. So, but I long for the day when he does reach the levels of the Shearer and others that have been leading our attack, and he certainly has the potential. And Neil said it the other night, and people started to say, "Oh, he's as close to another Thierry Henry as I've seen, and he has the potential to be even better. But age for age, he's as good as Henry was at that age. So he's top on form at the moment, but that's where I would leave it at the moment, because that's what people are being fed."
Okay. As always, got lots to get through on a Friday night, and we have asked you to send in your first two matches. If you've got one, send it by email. We want a little bit of meat to the bones. We don't just want you to say what the name of the game, what game it was, who was playing, what the score was. Want a little bit of a story behind it, and we've got that from Stephen Kennedy today with My First Tune Game. Although I was a little bit concerned when I got your email, Stephen, because you described it as my first time. I was wondering whether this was some kind of different section that somebody had announced into the show, which I hadn't seen. But anyway, Stephen's game is this one. He sent us the programme as well. Saturday, the 11th of February, 1967, St James's Park, Newcastle United versus Everton in League Division 1. The attendance was 31,243, and Everton won the game by 3-0. Alan Ball, John Morrissey and Jimmy Husband with the goals. Newcastle team that day was Gordon Marshall, Ronnie Guthrie, John McNamee, Bill Thompson, Frank Clark, Jim Eiley, Tommy Knox, Albert Bennett, Wyn Davies, Brian Robson and Dave Hilly. And the visitors team, it was Gordon West, Tommy Wright, Way Wilson, Sandy Brown, Jimmy Gabriel, John Hurst, Alan Ball, Alex Young, Colin Harvey, John Morrissey and Jimmy Husband. The write-up that Stephen sent us is as follows. My father was a big Everton fan. Dixie Dean was his boyhood hero. He used to watch them play at Newcastle, Roker or Borough if they were playing. My interest in football, big time, was after the 1966 World Cup. So Dad said he would take me to St James's Park to see Everton in February 67. We took the bus from High Westwood at 12:30, and as we travelled along, I was getting more and more excited as fans in black and white were getting on at almost every stop. I asked my dad, should we not have gone earlier to get a seat? He laughed and said, no seats, son. You've got to stand for 2 hours. But there's plenty of room. I smiled, thinking he was kidding me. Stand for 2 hours? Yeah, right. We got off the bus at Marlborough Crescent, went to a newsagent's for some sweets and pop and walked up to the ground. I started worrying again at the amount of people walking ahead of us, but Dad said, you've only seen it on the telly, son. Just wait till you get there. You'll be amazed. The nearer we got to the ground, this horrible smell got into my nose, and still to this day, I can't describe it. As Dad said, I had to get used to it if that was going to be a regular outing. Now, he did tell me it was hops from the brewery, but it took about 3 years before my body coped with it. We were going into the West Stand wing paddock next to the Gallagher end when we reached the bottom of the steps up to the turnstiles. I never noticed the big St James's Park gates. I thought those are massive stairs to climb, and many, many years later, when on holiday in Mexico, I went to the Mayan ruins at Chichen Itza, and seeing the stepped pyramid, my mind was transported back to my first game at the Tyne. When we were in, I was gobsmacked at how big the ground was, but more importantly, how big the football field was. Everything is tiny on the little TV we had back then. As the ground filled up, it was becoming harder and harder to see the pitch. My dad's mate, who we met inside, took me down to the wall near the corner flag and told me to watch from there. Dad and him came closer to keep an eye on me. I couldn't wait for it to start. When the teams came out, I shouted to my dad, "What's that old man doing playing for Newcastle?" It was Jim Eiley. I'd never heard of a receding hairline before. To me, he looked at least 80. They all just laughed. The game itself just flew by. We were 3-0 down inside half an hour. The score meant nothing to me. I loved watching Alan Ball, my 1966 hero, and I got a new hero in Jimmy Husband. Everton got a corner and he came over to take it. The ball made its way over to me at the wall. And when Jimmy came to get the ball from me, he ruffled my hair and said, "Thanks, kid." That was it for me. A football star had spoken to me and made my day. It was all I talked about on the bus back. Out playing on the Sunday and all day at school on Monday. But the noise and the smell of match day was in my life forever. Just knowing you could actually go and see your heroes play in real life was a real life changer for me. And Dad kept taking me to every home game and the Roker and the Borough when Everton were visitors. And when I was 15, I started going by myself. And Dad stopped going. He said it was my thing now. Enjoy every second of it. And I did. Thanks, Dad. You were great to me. The last match we went together was the 1974 Cup final. A lousy result, but Brendan Foster won the race at the beginning, and we all sang "Brendan is a Geordie." Thanks, Steve, for letting me recount this moment. It's brought back loads of memories that money can't buy. I just wish my dad was around now to see us becoming a force again. Stephen Kennedy, Black and White for life. And that's what this section is all about. A couple of photographs that he's sent as well. Alan Ball there, of course. He's really gone into depth with this. And, of course, the old man gets a mention as well there, Jim Hiley. Wonderful stuff. Great photos. Thank you for sending it. But, Stephen, lovely to do that. If you've got one, please get yourself in front of a computer. Take the time like Stephen did to share your story with us like that. Send it to nufcmatters1892@gmail.com and we'll feature it next week. Okay, it's time to look ahead to the match of the weekend. Newcastle travel to St Mary's Stadium tomorrow, Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. 3,000 away tickets sold. Don't forget as well, this will be United's first visit since the away section was relocated from the north end, Northam Stand, to the southwest Chapel Kingsland corner. That alteration doesn't affect the amount of tickets we have been given. But first up, Tyne Stato.
Hello everyone, away to Southampton on Saturday after that defeat against Bournemouth last weekend. Southampton was a bogey team for Newcastle for years. Actually, Newcastle won only one of 18 away games there in the Premier League until 2020. But since then we have won 3 out of the last 4 games there in the Premier League, and on top we won also the away semi-final leg at their stadium. Southampton, as you know, are not in great shape these days, and they have only 1 win against Newcastle in their last 13 games in all competitions, losing 9 and drawing the other 3. They're also with 5 consecutive home defeats in a row. Newcastle on their own has 3 consecutive wins away from home, and the last time we won 4 in a row was back in 1996-1997 season. Alexander Isak has scored in 4 away games in a row, the 3 wins and the loss against Brentford. And no Newcastle player has scored in 5 consecutive away games in the Premier League ever. Talking of Alexander Isak, he has also a great record against newly promoted teams, since Southampton is a newly promoted team this season. Alexander Isak has scored 13 goals in 12 games against newly promoted sides, with this hat-trick against Ipswich in the last game he played. Now, when it comes to Playing against newly promoted sides, Newcastle has only one defeat in 23 games, coming against Luton last season, just before Boxing Day, and we have won against Leicester and against Ipswich already this season, and of course beating Southampton in the first week of the season. Let's see what happens tomorrow, however, lads.
Cheers, Andrea. And no tune tipster this week because of the pre-record. He was at work, but we do have Scunny Mag.
Hi folks, Scunny Mag Paul here. Another away day guide, Southampton, coming up. Okay, the Saints. For those coming in on train, Southampton Central Station is your nearest. If you're driving in, there's no major car parking to really mention. Dotted around the marina area, quite a few small businesses that open up the car parks on match days and that, so you should drop on quite nicely. If you're staying over, the handiest one at a decent value is the Budget Ibis right in front of Central Station, and you can find that at the what three words of Asleep, Fortunate, Deeper, which is quite appropriate for a hotel. And then moving on to pubs, you've got a designated away fans pub partway between the station and the football ground, right on the main road, just on your right. That's the Yates's, and it's an update match voted. It does get very, very busy. There'll be one in, one out as you get nearer to the match. If it is full, there is another one just up the road from there. On your right, about 100 metres or so up the road, you've got the Scholars Arms, which used to be called the Frog and Parrot for anyone that's been before, but they're now actively encouraging away fans as well. And you can find that at Toxic Hero Outfit. And then a bit closer to the ground, Browns. From inside the pub, you can see the ground outside the window. You can see the sort of triangular support on the back of the stands. And that's going to be your closest one at the stadium, but it's home and away. So it's a good atmosphere. It's more of a family pub. I wouldn't head there in mass numbers and expect coach loads of fans to get served. It's small, but what they do well. So that's worth a try, especially if you're meeting a friend down there that's a Southampton fan. So when you are heading up to the ground, for anyone that's been before, at the start of the 24-25 season, they've moved the visiting supporters to the opposite corner of the stand. So you want to be on the southwest corner. If you're coming in from the Yates's or the Scholars Arms, you'll be coming along the main road and over a great little footbridge that's a tunnel over the railway line, and it's great for getting some songs going over there because the acoustics are brilliant. As you come off the footbridge, carry straight on, keep the stadium to your left until you get to the other end of it, and that's the corner you want to be at, which is the corner of the Kingsland and the Chappelle stand. Rate Entertainer Badly is your what three words to get you there, and you may get a little joy getting into the Chappelle fan zone, but it's a bit hit and miss, so don't rely on it. Once you get in, it's a decent little ground. The concourse is quite wide, plenty of facilities, it's good crack. You can get a good atmosphere going in there pre-game, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.
Cheers, Gunny Mag. Thank you very much for that. Newcastle United travel to Southampton. A good game, Steve, I think, for us to have after the Bournemouth collapse, and a week we've had to prepare for it. Newcastle as well, chasing a consecutive away win record, which was held by Kevin Keegan's Entertainers in '96. So good opportunity to get back on the horse.
Definitely, absolutely. And listening, I was just listening to an interview with Tino Livramento, who was saying how there was quite a bit of a post-mortem after the game on Saturday. A lot of disappointment, a lot of anger, a lot of questions asked about various people or by various people about their performances, as asking themselves as well as other players delving in. It sounds like it was a bit of a shock, the defeat that we had. As much more to do with the performance than anything else, and they need to bounce back. We know that, and I think they will bounce back. To be perfectly honest, I mentioned earlier, I thought that all the conversations seem to be at a game too far for them. We've been playing almost every 4 or 5 days, and this is an opportunity to refresh ourselves this week. Get back to basics, get back to understanding what is required to push this club up the league. Southampton, oh dear me, they've had a hell of a season, haven't they? For a team that came up promising so much, the style of football they were playing, but it just goes to show, if you don't go out and you don't build on your success of promotion, then you're really, really going to struggle. And this season, more than any season, is showing what the gulf is between the Championship and the Premier League. everybody raved about their performance at Wembley last season and how good they were and how exciting the team were because they'd had a fantastic run to get them into the promotion spot. And then this season just hasn't come off for them. They've got 3 players that are out, definitely. They've got a new signing, Grombeck, that they've bought in on loan. He's not going to be available. Dibling's not available. He tweaked an ankle, I think it was, and he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. They brought a young kid on, played 2 cameo roles. He is now not going to be playing because he's picked up a slight knock and they don't want to risk him. And Ramsdale and goals are doubt. So they've got a lot not going for them. And we've got an awful lot to prove as a squad to ourselves, I suppose, as much as anything, not necessarily to the fans. I don't think we have to prove anything to the fans, but what we have to do is we have to prove to ourselves as a squad and as a team that last week was a blip. And then that'll boost everybody for the next few games, because there are opportunities there to be taken, especially with the Champions League being back and teams that are in contention or around us in the league are involved in international game in European games. So all in all, this is a game that probably of all the teams is the best that we could hope for. Going in against a team that is just totally shot. And I'm expecting nothing more than a comprehensive win, Steve.
Okay, prediction?
3-0. 3-0.
3-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gibbo went for 3-0. I've gone for 4-0 on the show. So, Mitch, feelings about this one?
I think it's fair to say that Southampton, and not too disrespectful to say that Southampton are not a very good football team. That they're out of their depth and they don't have the quality to stay in the division that they're in. As Steve rightly said, they didn't build on their success. They've hoped to sort of float on it. Some of the gambles they took haven't worked out. Probably the last thing they need at this moment in time is us rocking up in town, feeling a little bit sorry for ourselves, feeling a little bit burned and ready to go again. And we owe them one. It's not the irony that the idiot that caused all the issues at St James's Park is now no longer playing for them, and he's now back on loan in the Championship with Sheffield United. But we have players who will not have forgot that, and we owe them one for that opening game of the season. And it's probably the very last thing they want is us walking through the door with a bit between their teeth and ready to go again. They're on course to push Derby's record as the worst Premiership season, and I see nothing to change my mind on that. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Whatever happened last week, hopefully we've got out of our system and we'll learn a little bit from that. And I would like to see us take it out on Southampton at the weekend.
Okay, have you got the dice?
I have.
Okay, what the dice say?
The dice says 1-2.
Okay, a bit closer than we were hoping, but 1-2. And what about you?
4-0.
4-0. Okay, Stu.
Well, before I give me analysis and prediction, I just want to say to Stephen Kelly, that was fantastic what he did for my first game. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And really, I think it pulled on a few people's heartstrings. It was fantastic. So excellent. Well done. Right. We started last weekend in 4th. We finished it in 6th. The 2 teams that went above us, Man City and Chelsea, are playing each other. So as long as I understand football, they both can't win. Well, I don't know, not so sure with the Premier League rules at the moment, but they both can't win. So as long as we win, we'll go above one of them. So worst case, we'll be 5th going after this weekend, because just as Mitch alluded to there, Southampton Well, we're seen as one of the best teams in the league. We're one of the best teams in the Premier League. Southampton are seen as one of the worst teams in Premier League history. So as long as the attitude is right and the focus is there, I'm in full agreement with what Ben Jacobs said on Wednesday night. Clip that, please. When he was giving his analysis regarding Newcastle's next few games. We get ahead, we can start resting players. We go fresher against Fulham next week, start resting players. Then it all builds up to the Arsenal game because that's on the back of all our minds, whether we mention it too often or not, and it's on the back of the players' minds. And we've got an ideal opportunity. We couldn't have asked for a better fixture than what we've got after losing our 9-game winning run. So, for me, I think it will be comfortable and it should be comfortable. And if not, then the alarm bells will ring loud and clear. But I think we'll be 3-0 up at half time. Then they can start bringing people off round about 60 minutes, the Isaacs, etc. And I'm with my professional buddies, and I'll go with Steve and with Mitch and see a comfortable 4-0 away victory with the foot taken off the pedal in the second half.
Okay, George.
Thanks to Steve Kennedy again, because that's the AI finally accepted my professional career was over. And Billy Thompson was somebody I played with quite a lot as a kid. Lad from Ashton, good centre half, and enjoyed it. So thanks, Stephen. The Southampton thing is just so sad for a club like that, but you reap what you sow, unfortunately, and they didn't sow very much when they came up out of the Championship, and they're paying for it. However, it's very salutary reminder to us as where we were before our takeover was. We could have broke that record the way we were going. They had a good game the other night, but that was more to do with the rubbish they were playing rather than what they were doing. And I can't see us losing that game. And if there has been some soul searching in the dressing room after the defeat last week, I'm glad, because it needed it. It needed it. They needed it together. They needed it with the coach and staff, because it wasn't very good, but it could have been prevented, in my view, as being as bad as that. But I can't see it happening to us again. So, like the rest of you, I was already, before you all said it, I was already for a 4-0 anyway. So that's how optimistic I am. And just to say to all the NUFC matters, lads and lasses that are going, I know there's quite a few. Enjoy your trip, and I hope it's a successful one.
Yeah, safe travels.
Yep,
Yeah.
safe travels.
Well,
Before we wrap up, Stu, you just said, me and you were having a little exchange on our phones there, and you had a little bit of positive news to finish. We started off quite negatively, didn't we? Like talking about the transfers, etc. But rumours potentially, at the moment that maybe things might kickstart in the final week.
Yeah, well, I had a message whilst we were doing the show that obviously I can't say where I got it from, but I can guarantee it's fact that Paul Mitchell has based himself in London all week and has had several meetings regarding incoming and outgoings. So whether anything comes from it, I don't know. But I think for me, it's a good thing he's out of the glare of the publicity, he's out of the glare of the plane spotters, the people who stay at Central Station, the people who stay at the club, the people who stand outside the training ground. London's a big place and you can hide yourself quite easily in it. And for me, it's a sensible move that he's based himself there. There has been talk during the week that he's met with people from Juventus. I think that's clearly discussing Kelly. That doesn't mean something has come off it, but at least he's being proactive. And what we need now is him to justify his huge reputation and not wait for things to happen, but actually make things happen. And I believe that him and Eddie Howe over the last few months have went through the squad player by player, and they'll have probably 3 or 4 different sections of players, non-negotiables, right down to, yeah, okay, let them go. And in between that, you've got, I'd rather not, and I prefer they stay. So for me, there'll be 4 categories. and I think we could all work out who the non-negotiables are. And the rest is, for now, he's got, where are we now? The 23rd, as we're recording this. So he's got 11 days to prove that he's at the top of his trade, as I believe he is. And I think he can make some magic work. So I've got full belief that there will be some outgoings which will generate some incomings. And if they do overspend, where can they generate extra money from? Just go back to the start of the show, you'll find out. So I'm positive that we'll have a good income in this window if it's the right player. And again, as we always say, you need a player willing to come, you need a willing seller and a willing buyer. But I think we're in the market, but it's this subterfuge that's been created could be smoke and mirrors. Let's go under the radar and come out with someone that some people thought we couldn't get. So that's what I've got, and it's genuine. And I know that you all know exactly where it's come from, but I can guarantee you Paul Mitchell has been based in London all week, and he'll join up with the squad over the weekend. Tomorrow.
Ties in nicely with the point that we've been trying to make for a while, because some people would get upset when, say, they make the announcement that Solis has been appointed to the board. Oh, but he's not based in Newcastle. As we grow, more and more of our business will be done in London going forward, because that's how
most things will be done in Newcastle. Mitchell will be training and playing.
Yeah, international business is done in London, and I think that's how it'll go.
Well, a lot of clubs have their board meetings in London, Neil.
Absolutely. Well, again, you're talking about Sunderland having a bigger commercial department than us. They had two people based in London.
Yeah.
Where you are has no relevance to your ability to do business in the modern world. But also, it is easier to do your business discreetly in London.
There we go. We'll leave you with that. I'm still going to go to sleep expecting no transfers in. That way I won't get disappointed. If we get one, I'll be over the moon. I'm sure most of you will have the same kind of mindset.
I'm going to bed convinced now that he's going to come back with Vlahovic from the Juventus. I'm so excited.
Good job. We can all agree to disagree on that. Let's have a little
Thank
bit.
you for letting me get crash your show, lads. Anyway, I much appreciate it.
See you.
Yeah, you're always welcome. We're going to finish with a bit of Elliot. Just been arrested for impersonating a helium balloon. Police had no evidence, so had to let me go. Cracking bunch of officers, though. I can only speak highly of them.
I like that one.
That's a good one. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks to all the moderators for doing their jobs tonight. Big thanks to Steve, to Mitch, to George, and to Stu for joining us. Thanks to Andrea and to Scunny Mag as well. And we will be back with the professionals, of course, on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Just confirm that. And then the fans forum on Monday at the usual time of 6. Have a good weekend. Don't let the football spoil it. Thanks, lads.
Cheers,
everyone. Have a great weekend.
Cheers.